Welcome to Star Notes, your monthly astrology forecast with Mikailah Rachael from Star Witch Astrology. Mikailah Rachael is a hereditary folk witch, soul astrologer, and transpersonal therapist experienced in oracular traditions and Western ritual arts. In these episodes, we explore the major transits, energetic trends, and cosmic shifts shaping the month ahead, and offer easy, practical ways to work with these energies in your everyday life. I wish to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and record, the Wandjarabara people. I honour their enduring connection to the lands, waters, and communities, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. I also extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
Hello, beautiful wild witches. This is the Star Notes for April 2026. My name is Rachael from Star Witch Astrology, and I'm so delighted to be doing this for you. This is for old ways for the new age, and the Aries season is the first flame. So I have all my notes here and the charts. We'll be diving into some practical magic. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it starts the astrological new year. So happy birthday to all the Aries out there, and happy astrological new year, which actually started on the 21st of March 2026. So in astrology, the birth chart is created from your first breath, which is why the premise and astrologers are so curious and needing to know your birth time, because the first breath begins the first sign, first house, ascendant, rising degree. So that's just a little bit of astro tidbit there for you. And of course, your rising ascendant sign, no matter what it is, rules your first house of your chart. Now, what this also means is that this is the original energy. But Aries, let's get into the season of Aries. I'm so excited. I'm wearing red to honor Aries, the passion, the drive for self-discovery, new beginnings, creative freedom, but instinct-led decisions with initiatory pathways, and courage under pressure with new adventures is basically the keynote themes for this month. I've got the charts, as I've mentioned. Aries is cardinal fire. So we have the fire energy burning away what no longer sustains us throughout this month. It is really a interesting exploration when you are looking into your birth chart to work out, based on either the modern planets or the 7 traditional planets, what your elemental makeup is. If you are a dominant fire being, you might be dominant earth, you might be dominant water or air. And what the dominant element is in your natal birth chart actually does play into the seasons, the solar seasons. So with Aries, the fire, the first flame, the first sign, we are now starting a whole new cycle, and this is the initiatory pathway. Also, what's happening in the big collective planetary celestial skies is that Neptune and Saturn both have crossed a threshold, ending old cosmic karmic cycles last month, and they are now transiting through Aries. So the shutters are off with the rose-colored glasses. And for this month, the solar month of Aries, if you are a beginner or if you are an avid astrology lover, obviously looking at your natal birth chart, whether you use whole sign or Placidus or any other house system, looking at what house sector in your natal chart is governed by the sign of Aries, because what I'm going to speak into is that will be the house sector that these planetary energies that I'm about to open up and explore throughout this witchy expression of ours that we like to look at. So let's dive in. Now, the full moon this month in Libra, so we're in the solar season of Aries, the opposite sign, Libra. The full moon is right at the start of the month on the 2nd of April, and it is 12 degrees Libra. Now, this is a very powerful full moon in Libra, and it's not your standard recipe cookbook full moon in Libra. Libra is the tropical sign that is Venus ruled. However, the moon is in the cardinal Libra sign, air, and it is squaring, forming a 10th square to Jupiter in Cancer. Now, Cancer is cardinal water. So I will also talk into the 4 cardinal signs of Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn later on to do with the equinoxes and the solstices. But this square of the full moon in Libra to Jupiter in Cancer is a 10th square also to the sun in Aries. Now, Jupiter is a benefic planet and it expands and brings good luck and good fortune. It's bountiful. It's the ruling planet of Sagittarius. So, let's broaden our horizons. However, Jupiter also, whatever it touches, it exaggerates, and we can overindulge or bring in the excesses with Jupiterian transits because the moon in Libra and the sun are both squaring Jupiter. This is forming a 10th T-square, and it's a tight orb for those of you that are more into advanced astrology. Now, be mindful of overexertion and destructive behaviors. If Jupiter is on steroids, squaring and challenging that sun in Aries around self-identity, what you want to do. Aries is about the I am, and what it is doing is that Cancer, which Jupiter is currently transiting in, Cancer governs loved ones and family and home and emotional security. So there's a lot of tension here with this full moon. Libra archetypally is the symbol of the scales of balance. And we are ideally seeking balance in relationships, bringing ourselves into right relationship. The full moon energy brings into full light, full illumination, full expression, its peak, its climaxing. But with the Jupiter square in Cancer, what this is also doing is it's important to stop and take a breath and not to go madly rushing in where angels fear to tread, though you may want to if you've got strong Aries energy. It is a natural part of our human experiences that individuals have different expectations around love and care and nurturing and nourishment. So there might possibly be some challenging conversations as well, because the moon in Libra is forming an aspect called an inconjunct to Mercury, the planet of communication, in mutable watery Pisces, that can bring up confusion, and it can also cause some feelings of not being heard. The emotional moon is in an air sign needing expression, but it's in conjunct Mercury, the planet of communication, in Pisces, which is ethereal and boundless. So the communication and the expression may miss the mark. And what this means is it's slightly skewed. So just keep these aspects in mind with this incredible full moon celebration. And like I said, the rose-colored glasses are off, and there will be a tension potentially between independence with Aries and emotional security with Jupiter and Cancer, personal desire, Aries, and collective responsibility. So when I was trained in transpersonal psychology, we were also taught that tension is an amazing creative vital force to work with. So in transpersonal astrology, yes, squares are tense aspects, and in conjunctions cause irritations. They're not slightly flowing easily. But squares offer the gift of growth that come through the discomfort. So lean into that discomfort, lean into that feeling. The full moon in Libra is Venus ruled, illuminating relationships, balance, and energetic exchanges. So reciprocity. Where have you abandoned yourself to keep the peace? This is all going to be reflected in these themes. The other aspect, which is really interesting when I'm looking at the chart, is that the Sun in Aries has separated from Saturn in Aries. So it's still a wide conjunction. But what this means is that Saturn, the master and guardian elder that teaches us, is also teaching us how to put some restraint on that impulsive Aries fire so that we don't burn the bridges or basically explode with this incredible fire energy, and then we destruct, we destroy, we blow it up, which sometimes is actually what needs to happen in situations where maybe you've been suppressing your communication, where you've been maybe overextending. It's about sacrifice over reciprocity. So it's about bringing it all back into balance. All of these themes are super important with the planetary transits throughout April 2026, where fire meets fate. Aries is governed by Mars. Mars is the planetary ruler. It's dynamic, it's charged, and this is a month that is deeply cathartic. And catalytic is the word I was seeking when I was feeling into that destructive, explosive energy. So check out the elemental makeup in your chart. So Mars, the ruling planet of Aries, is actually moving into its domicile, which means its home sign, on April the 10th. So this is all happening in the first couple of weeks of Aries. So Mars coming back home to Aries is the warrioress or the warrior. The energy is intensified. This is raw drive. This is instinctual raw energy, and it refuses to stay stagnant. So the good news is that Mars is in Pisces when we have the full moon. But then after the full moon and the waning, so it's important to also pay attention to the lunar energies each month. So with the lunar activations, we have obviously a 8-phase cycle. So every month there is a lunar 28-day lunar cycle as well as the solar season. So after the full moon in Libra, we have the waning, and it is in this waning cycle that Mars, the planetary ruler of Aries, is moving into its home sign in Aries. So as with anything, when I speak into the planets and the signs, There is always a healthy, positive, life-affirming expression, an optimum expression. There can also be a very challenging, wounded, or misdirected energy. It's all in our intention of how we choose to channel these energies. We are not victims of the universe. We are sovereign beings. This is where we take responsibility, agency of self-autonomy with Aries, and how we choose to direct or misdirect these energies. With Mars moving into Aries, you may feel potentially restless or energized or a deep desire for change. So Mars in energy is about deciding, beginning. This is the energy. And we have an incredible Aries stellium, which means that there's more than 3 or 5 planets in the same sign. We have Mercury, the planet of communication, has now moved into Aries at 1 degree, conjunct Neptune at 2 degrees. So there's a little bit of mix here around confusion, what direction to take. Also, the moon moves very quickly. The moon takes 2.5 days to move through a sign, and moon is conjunct Mars at 4 degrees in Aries. This is the big Aries stellium around the 17th. Saturn, the master guardian that either contracts or limits or asks us to just be wise, be masterful, apply that maturity, is at 7 degrees with Sun and Chiron, both in Aries late degrees. This is a wild, wild ride. So the fire that burns old versions or parts of you that you cannot sustain anymore. This Aries stellium reminds me in the tarot card, the major arcana, the Chariot. It's a wild, wild ride, and once you're on this ride, you cannot get off the chariot. You have to stay to the end. So be very mindful with your intentions. Energy follows intentions. This is the Fire Witch month of cinnamon brewing, dragon's blood, and looking at your future, where your intention becomes action. And we have an incredible new moon, basically the same time, the 17th of April, mid-April is wild with this chart of the new moon. It is a reset with the new moon, the sun and the moon 27 degrees conjunct Chiron 26 degrees Aries. So we have Chiron, the wounded healer. Now the glyph for Chiron is the key. And keys unlock new opportunities and bring new beginnings. This is an incredible reset like no other, this new moon in Aries. It is also forming a fire trine to the Arabic part of fortune, which is at 29 degrees Sagittarius, which is an anaretic karmic degree, which allows the fire energy to flow freely. If you are a fire witch, if you know how to work with energy and magic, this is one potent new moon. And it is not for wishful thinking. This is embodied decision and actions and intentions. Aries can be quite self-centered. So I would also invite you to send out your prayers, your fire magic, out into the ethers for the collective healing, out into the collective sacred temenos for all. And this is remembering, this is the reset of the new moon to burn away old versions or parts of your life that you cannot sustain any longer. And again, I was called to work with the tarot, the major arcana, Aries, the first sign. The new moon on the 17th of April is the Fool card. This is the Ride Awake deck that I work with. I've always worked with. I've never been trained in tarot. This is a natural hereditary gift that's come through. And I honor my foremothers and my own beautiful blood lineage. The Fool card means that you have all that you need. You have your gifts, your tools of your trade, your medicine, your sacred craft. You're looking up. You're trusting in the journey, but you have to be very brave and courageous. And I love the red. Red is the sacred color of Aries. You have to be very brave and courageous. And this is what the gift of Aries is bringing you this solar month, is to step forth with courage. Beautiful star lovers and magical cunning folk. For those of you who wish to have one-on-one personal sessions with me, you will be able to find me on my website, starwitchastrology.com. I'm also appearing on Instagram when I feel inspired, and I do have a monthly private newsletter when I feel inspired to write from the magical, mystical woods of where I live or when I'm traveling. I am a witch and I love to offer personal sessions into your astrological birth chart. We look at your incarnational agreements, but we are also very practical and grounded with how we explore this through a transpersonal lens, as well as looking at your natal birth chart. It is a fabulous opportunity to look at the planetary transits for the year ahead of how best to channel, to direct or misdirect the energies depending on how you choose to work with this. It's a wonderful mapping tool. On my website, I also offer courses. There is a fabulous 4-part lunar magic course. I offer journey work with Venus as the morning and evening star, and I also do cosmic witch mentorship. So you're more than welcome to find me there, and I'm incredibly grateful to be able to be a special guest on the podcast Old Ways for the New Age, bringing you star notes each month. Now, working with the lunar energies is important. The moon phases with the ritual flow, as I've mentioned, because after the new moon on the 17th of April, we're in the waxing, and the waxing helps to build, to create, to initiate. The new moon is where you set intentions, and we have, howling at the moon, creating beauty. How do you align yourself with natural timing? And why I mention howling at the moon and creating beauty is because even though this is star notes for April, Taurus season, the solar season, moves into earthy embodied Taurus on the 20th of April. Everything slows down. This is where integration begins in the season of Taurus. After the fire comes, what can you sustain that you have started? And Taurus season being Venus ruled, Venus is currently the evening star right through to October. As I've mentioned, and I'll probably in absolute adoration and devotion and reverence mention Venus as the evening star, every star note. Why you can, after sunset, if you have clear visibility out to the west, after sunset, you'll see Venus as the evening star, the bright evening star. This is sensory magic. This is beauty. This is devotion. Make a wish. So Venus is also in late degrees of Taurus, conjunct Uranus, the great liberator and awakener. So we have huge, huge shifts, and this is activations around love and money. Liberation often comes with this disruptive energy. Please look after your nervous systems. One of the big astrological events for 2026 is Uranus, which has an 84-year cycle transit, moves into Gemini. Uranus takes 84 years to go around the 12 zodiacal signs. But Uranus moving into Gemini on the 27th of April at the end of the month is a 7-year transit right through till May 2033. So this is important if you want to look at in your natal chart the house sector that's ruled by Gemini. This is where Uranus will be transiting for the next 7 years. Also, if you've got any personal planets in Gemini, Uranus will be moving across them, conjuncting them, which is an initiatory activation, rite of passage. We've got so many thresholds happening this year. Now, Uranus in Gemini, Gemini governs ideas, communication. Uranus is technology. This is where our thoughts become incredibly telepathic. There'll be lots of downloads. Telepathic awareness is heightened off the charts. Your voice becomes a tool. So spell crafting, how you wish to communicate, really working with mindful intention with technology, social media. We've seen the rise of AI intelligence, whatever your thoughts and your feelings are on that. You're an individual, you're an adult. You can choose how to work with this intentionally. But we are crossing the threshold with Uranus into Gemini. Now, of course, we are entering the month of Aries with awareness. Here in the Southern Hemisphere, April carries autumnal energy. In the Northern Hemisphere, you're entering into spring, Aries, the ram. So the Northern Hemisphere is with the spring fire, whereas in the Southern Hemisphere, we're moving into the descent, the reflection, the harvest, the letting go. But this adds depth to our seasonal cycles. Because Aries governs action and movement, it's important to be aware of the physical body. Also, because on the 20th of April, we move into the embodied sign of Taurus. Let walking become your ritual. One of my all-time favorite practices is to do witch walking, where I walk in silence throughout my neighborhood or through the forest where I live or wherever I'm traveling at the time, following old tracks and pathways. Ever since I was a young child, I was born here in Australia, but I grew up in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And one of my all-time favorite pastimes as a young child and a young adult was walking the old Indigenous tracks through down to the sea. And I encourage you to cultivate a practice of witch walking wherever you're living. You can do this in the cities, you can do this in the countryside. Do it mindfully, taking a pause to see what pulls you. Is there a mother tree? Is there a plant? Is there a flower? Is there a bird? What is the sensation that you're feeling when you're doing your witch walking, being very mindful of aware of your environment? Practices in the month of Aries, because fire energy, it's easy to move too fast. We can get very restless. We can get overstimulated, overactivating, and witch walking helps you to slow down. It grounds the fire into the body. And as I've mentioned, it's super important to integrate and let your insights anchor and become part of your experience this month. Everyday magic. Wear something red, even if you don't like the color red, maybe, have some red underwear or a red ribbon. I love to tie a red ribbon around my besom, my witch's broom. So you might be able to get yourself or make your own witch's broom, your witch's besom, and decorate it each month. This is everyday magic. This is simple, intentional, everyday magic. Aries, the first sign, the Eastern Gateway. Facing east at sunrise to honor the beginnings. Drinking your morning elixir facing east intentionally. I love to work with cinnamon, and I brush my hair with cinnamon sticks to put the magic through my hair. And also because of Aries, if you so choose to work with energetic passageways, the head, the crown is the antenna for activations, downloads. It's a strong chironic month. Chiron is the wounded healer, the deepest core wound, but the greatest medicine gift. So in ancient times, people would make pilgrimages to the cave of Chiron to pray and petition for insight into healing. With Chiron in Aries featuring so strongly through the month of April, the glyph of Chiron is the key. So keys, as I mentioned, key magic are symbols for opening new doorways. So finding an old antique or vintage key, drawing a key, being mindful of your keys, your house keys, blessing your house keys. As I mentioned, wearing clothes that ignite confidence, red, and decorating your witch's besom with red ribbon. Another reflection I had this morning, I know I've gone on longer than usual because Aries month is really embracing the fire and acting with courage and walking with presence. Sometimes wearing a piece of clothing inside out is something, it's folklore, it's superstitious, but I found it works. Wearing a t-shirt inside out. Sometimes I do it unintentionally. I get dressed in the morning, I don't realize I've got a t-shirt on inside out. It reflects energy away as well. It banishes, it releases, it reflects back. So that's something to try as well. April, the threshold month, fire meets form with Aries, fire into Taurus. Instinct, instinctual action with Aries, spirit meeting the body, and checking out what elemental makeup is in your chart is a really amazing exercise to do. Find some red flowers growing. This is beautiful geranium for the heart, for Venus, red for Aries. Take a breath, arrive. Be courageous, be brave, be instinctual, and know that you've got this. Go well. And I will see you next month for Taurus Star Notes.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Your support means the world to me, and if you have a free moment and would like to leave a review, a comment, or a rating on your platform of choice, that would go a long way towards helping me to grow the podcast and reach more people. If you aren't already subscribed, check out my Substack newsletter. Over there, I share lots of free resources, as well as an option to join as a paid subscriber, which is another beautiful way you can support my work. May what you've heard today guide you in living a little more slowly and a little more connected.